Hi everyone, this is Anvita Dikshit, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the process of applying abroad. Now, I know this can be quite a challenging process, and it's so difficult to understand all the different parts that chart out the roadmap to your application abroad. But I'm here to break it down for you and make it simple and easy to understand. Now, when I was in the same place as you, trying to understand what are the few different steps that I need to take to make a successful application, the first thing I did was just call up a bunch of my seniors and ask them, where did you apply? How did you do it? How does this work? And finally, I got a couple of answers that I then patched together and created a roadmap for myself. But I'm here to simplify this for you and just give you the roadmap in one video so that you know exactly what to do to make sure that your application is successful and you know what you're doing when you're applying abroad. So let's get into it. Well, first things first, the most important thing is your timeline. I cannot stress this enough. If you don't know when the application deadlines are and you don't know what timeline you're working with, you'll constantly feel a little stressed out because you feel like you just have to submit it immediately. So give yourself some time, pace yourself out properly, and plan in advance. Then everything becomes easy and you can just set targets that you need to meet. So let's see how we're going to do that. Step 1. First, you want to just make two very specific lists. The first list is going to have a list of your dream universities. And this is just a brainstorm list. It could just be a university you'd heard of when you were younger and really wanted to go to, so you can write that. Or it can just be places that you would definitely like to visit, or you're just a fan and you want to go to this university. The second list is going to be universities that are specific to your area of interest. Now, some of these dream universities might be great, but they may not be the best for the area of interest that you're looking for. So in that case, what you need to do is just write down, okay, my interests are XYZ, and these are the top universities in my area of interest. So for example, for me, there were some fantastic universities that I'd heard of, but my area of interest was media and communications, and I wanted a course that was very practical, which would teach me to speak in front of a camera like this, where I'd have a lot of media opportunities. And so it didn't make sense to just go by my dream university list. I needed to make sure I had another list that was a little more practical and had the kind of universities that would help me get ahead in my career path. So I had these two lists, and I would highly recommend you make these two lists. And after that, we move to step 2. Step 2 is seeing the deadlines on all these universities. So let's say, for example, you're in the final year of your college or your school, and you're trying to understand what to do next. Well, this is a great time, and I would highly recommend doing this as early on as you can. And then when you've got these lists and you're early, your deadline will not give you pressure. You'll see that the deadline is about a year or a year and a half away, and you'll be like, okay, this is awesome. So now that you have a sufficient amount of time and you found out the deadlines of the universities, you can then relax a little because you know how much time you have. So that's step 2, just writing down all the deadlines, making sure that you've got it down to the T. And you'll also notice a pattern. Most of the universities have deadlines in and around the same time. So that month is just going to be submitting applications and pretty packed, but at least you'll know when that's going to be. Now, from there, we come to step 3. So we've got the dream schools, the practical schools, we've got their deadlines. Now, the next thing we need to do is check for standardized testing. A lot of universities abroad need some kind of test to know that you can match the standards of academic rigor that they have, and they just want to make sure that you will be a great student when you get there. So some of the tests are GRE, GMAT. If you're looking at some other places, it may also be the SAT. So you just want to check which of these tests apply to you and when you need to give them. So once you've found out, okay, these are my dream schools and practical universities, and these are the kind of tests that they're looking for, then you can go and check when those tests are held and just get a little bit of a feel for how often they're held and whether they're virtual or in person. So once you've found that out, just write that down, write down those dates and keep them in mind. When I was doing this research, I realized that the GRE was recommended for my course, but it wasn't mandatory. And for a second I was like, oh, so do I need to give it or can I just skip this test? But in the end, I realized that even though it says recommended, it's best that you do it, because if this university doesn't need it, some other one might, and then you can't travel back in time to give the test, so you might as well give it once and for all. And I would 100% suggest that give it once, give it your best shot, and then, that's it. You have a good score and you can move on. But if you feel you gave it once, it may not have been your best effort, then of course you can give it 2 or 3 times. But a personal tip would be definitely just give it one time and get the best score that you can. After that, once you've finished understanding the standardized testing, you come to the English language tests. Now, this could be the IELTS or the TOEFL, and you need to check which one your university is recommending or wants you to take. In a lot of cases, universities will allow you to submit your application without an IELTS score if you can give it to them later on, or if on the specific date you're able to submit your proof of being able to speak and communicate in English. So again, checking dates and seeing when this is required becomes really important. And to be very honest, IELTS is a pretty straightforward exam, as is GRE, and if you study for it well in advance, you'll be able to crack it. And another thing is, if you have studied in English all your life, as some of us have, then this will be a little bit easier for you because you're already well versed with the language. So just try and see, how much effort you would need to put in for this test, and then take a call as to how much time you need to prepare. Then once you've got your GRE, your IELTS, you know what's happening, you've got the dates, then we come to the next component, which is now looking at what does the application itself require. And the application might need essays, it might need SOPs, it might even need some very customized responses, and it might have a bunch of questions that you need to answer. So again, scan the application of your dream universities and some of your practical universities, and these could be anywhere from 10 to 30. It really depends on how many places you're interested in applying to. I had chosen about 10 so that I can keep my bandwidth intact and really focus on where I want to go. So now once you've found out the application, you've seen that, okay, College X requires 2 essays, College Y requires 1 essay but 4 individual questions. Then you know what the individual requirements are and you keep writing those down. Once you've got all that in place, it gives you a clear understanding and a high-level view of what is required of you over the next few months. And this will also make you feel very relaxed in the sense that you know what you need to do and how much time you have, and then you can just get to it. All right, so this is just understanding the application procedure. Now, here are some things to note. Sometimes in universities, the application is just step 1. You're yet to kind of do maybe a group interview or a personal interview, and after that they can confirm whether you've been admitted or not. Some universities don't need that and admit you just on the basis of your written application, so you would need to check if this is just step 1 or the final stage itself. And either way, keep giving it your best shot. So now in my case, for some of the universities, I had to give the written application, and after that I also had a personal interview with a faculty member so that they could speak to me about why I want to do the course, and I could speak to them about what to expect, how the course is designed, and what I'm going to get to learn. And trust me, it's one of the best things to happen if you get to speak to the faculty, because you also get a lot of your doubts cleared very early on. So this is your application component. So let's do a quick recap of what we went over. First, you're going to make 2 lists: dream schools, practical schools. Then you're going to see if they need a GRE or they need a GMAT. Then you're going to see your TOEFL and IELTS. Then you're going to see specific application requirements, essays, SOPs, or if they need some questions to be answered. And finally, if they have a group discussion, personal interviews, or any other method of testing if you're a good fit for that university. So this marks out your whole process of application. And what I would say is, once you've understood all of these things, then give yourself enough time, write out your application, also get your letters of recommendation either from your teachers of the past university or from somebody that has worked with you closely, and attach those to your application as well. Now, once you come closer and closer to the deadline, you might feel the pressure building up just a little bit. Remember to stay calm and submit the application with as much ease as you can. And also remember to have somebody proofread your application, as there might be little things that you have overlooked because you've seen it so many times. So do give it to someone else to read, but try and make sure that they're only reading it and maybe correcting the grammatical errors, and most of the written application is still yours, because at the end of the day, it's you applying and it should be true to you as much as possible. So this is a quick overview of what it takes to apply abroad and all the processes associated with it. The last thing I will say is also check if the application has a fee attached to it or there are any application waivers that you can get. Some students who might be need-based or merit-based can get a waiver on the application fee if it's too expensive for you. So do check that and make a note so that you can just maybe save some money if it applies to you. With that, I hope this has been a helpful video and you've got a lot of tips or takeaways from this. These are some of the things I personally did while applying to study at King's College London, and it really helped me. In a few other videos, we'll also be looking at some of the costs associated with living abroad and also deep diving into the essays and SOP component. So do stay tuned for the upcoming videos, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you.